is now the time to implement zero trust. And this is where it gets a little bit more policy oriented. So why are we doing this? It's a more relevant security model for today's era of work. That idea of, the firewall and the moat, and we keep everything outside and then we're in at work, pardon me, made a lot more sense when we all came to work every day. But more and more there's work from home, there's hybrid
cloud,
there's middle of the night stuff that comes up. It used to be that to disconnect from the network, you just disconnected your network cable. That's just not true anymore. People are working from the Starbucks. It gives remote workers more protection, and it extends visibility into potential threats, which is kind of word salad for the fact that by breaking everything out into individual connections, well, you can see what's going wrong or right.
Right, because ideally you've defined policies for the different flows, which we'll get into in the fourth segment. And that's the whole point, is that if something violates a policy that you've written, there's an audible event, there's a trail, and you can look into it, investigate, and then remediate.
It improves proactive remediation and response. By that, what we're talking both about what Alex was just talking about, but also the fact that by micro-segmenting our network, if we get broken into, it's a lot less of a disaster because only one segment gets broken into. It reduces complexity, and you'll note that we have a question mark there. In theory, that's what everybody says, oh, it's way less complex. When we go into the implementation, you'll see that it might reduce some complexity for the end user. It doesn't make your job as an IT person any easier.
Yeah, I'd say that maybe a lot of the complexity is front loaded. There's also a lot of overhead complexity, but once you have a working model that works for your environment, and every environment is going to have a custom approach. There's no one size fits all, at least not today. That might be where you start to see that reduction in complexity.
Because you already have rules generated for new things, because you already thought about how they're going to fit. Lower costs of breaches, we'll get into this, but this is a significantly lower cost. It's not a small savings. We'll get into some details on that. Secure third parties working in the network. For most of our clients, we're a third party. We are going into your network. Now, we protect that with the way that our stuff is designed to only go outgoing so that we're not actually ever coming into your network. But I have been in many PSAPs where there is a login for the CPE vendor, for the CAD vendor, and suddenly you have third parties working in your network. So it's so funny, this slide is titled Zero Trust Can Be Complex, okay? Where it was taken from was something that was talking about how zero trust reduced complexity. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of planning. You have to plan every step of this before you get to the actual control plane, the actual surface that's being protected.
Yeah, and there's a crawl, walk, run approach to this, and we'll get into that.